This is the second of probably 3 episodes, all about the Horror Gives Back that Unsung Horrors does every year. They're theme movies every day, and all the money goes to a fundraiser to benefit Best Friends, which works to save the lives of cats and dogs across America, giving pets second chances and happy homes. You can go to bestfriends.org to learn more. Been joined by a few different folks to work on these. Adam Hursey is the first person I'm going to talk about. And on October 11th, the theme was 1970s, and The Body Beneath was the movie. Adam says as you dove back into the Andy Milligan box set from Severin, The Body Beneath was one of the films made during this London period. If you ever watched an Andy Milligan film, you know that your mileage may vary. Too much inbreeding has caused a degradation of the bloodline of a family of vampires, led by the Reverend Alexander Ford, played by Gavin Reed. The brood sets out to gather some fresh blood, namely relative Susan Ford, who has recently disclosed to her boyfriend Paul that she's expecting. After the Reverend takes over Carfax Abbey, obviously an allusion to Count Dracula's London estate, you can't ever accuse Andy Milligan of being subtle. He begins a reign of terror, kidnapping Susan for her offspring and others for their blood supply while punishing his hunchback servant. There's always a hunchback in an Andy Milligan movie. Can Paul rescue Susan before it's too late? No one can ever accuse Andy Milligan of properly pacing a movie either. Fortunately for the writer here, for Adam, he's never in a rush to get through on his films and never expected to embrace his movies like he has, but there's just something about the bad acting, low production values, and magnificent costumes that keep him coming back for more. Not sure what to do when I run out of new films to watch in this box set. He could probably just start over. He's perfectly okay with that option. The Severin did discover a couple of previously lost Milligan films recently, so that'll be something to look forward to hopefully soon. My 1970s pick was a movie that amazingly I had not watched. I don't know how. I think I've watched it. We'll get into it. It's Last House on the Left from 1972.
It rests on 13 acres of earth over the very center of hell. Here's the first motion picture to offer to the daring a look into the final, maddening space between life and death. The Last House on the Left. To avoid fainting, keep repeating. It's only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie. Sights and sounds far beyond anything you've tested. Last House on the Left. To avoid fainting, keep repeating. It's only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie. Take as much as you can. Only a movie.
It's not groundbreaking to pick this movie. It's just a blind spot. I've watched every movie that stole its poster design from this film. House That Vanished. Bay of Blood was also called Last House on the Left Part 2, Last House Part 2, A New House on the Left. There's so many movies inspired by it, several of whom when they came to the U.S. or played in the U.S., stole the poster design. Last Stop on the Night Train, House on the Edge of the Park, Last House on Dead End Street, The House by the Lake, Hitchhike, The Last House on the Beach, Madness. I even watched the remake before this. There's no excuse for this blind spot, but I fixed it. Maybe I've been ambivalent at best about Wes Craven, but I've tried to separate those feelings and experience this as a new movie. And I get it now. And even the parts people hate, like the wacky music, the goofy cops, it's ramshackle and it's kind of all over the place, but it works. And when it gets into the meanness, which was unexpected at the time, it goes for it in a way that movies don't. So all those ramshackle parts, all the goofy parts, don't prepare you for where this is going to go. Sean Cunningham made his directorial debut with The Art of Marriage, which came to the attention of Hallmark releasing the greatest. His next film, Together, was an improved take on that. Wes Craven worked on that film, and he and Cunningham had the opportunity to discuss making movies. They were given a bigger budget to make this, and it was intended to be a hardcore roughie of sorts. Before filming, they decided to abandon that idea and just make a movie that could play regular theaters. We tend to think of elevated horror as a new thing, but Craven wanted to base this on the Swedish ballad Therese Dotter I Wange. I'm saying that incorrectly, but that inspired Ingmar Bergman's Virgin Springs, and I mean, that sounds good for press, doesn't it? Other than Eleanor Shaw and Sandra Peabody, no one in this cast was a professional actor other than Freddie Lincoln, who did adult, but maybe that also worked in the film's favor. Peabody said, I was upset because I'm an emotional person, and I reacted to what was going on if it were real. I had a tough time with some of the scenes because I came out of the American Playhouse, where it's all about prepping, everything had to be real. I ended up doing a horrible job in the film. I was distraught, and I felt like I should have channeled that, but I couldn't. As a young actress, I was still learning to balance any emotions I had from outside this film into my work. Like a real-life version of the film effects, Peabody was convinced that David Hess was an actual lunatic. As for Hess, he was a musician who also wrote most of the music for this movie with Stephen Chapin. Yes, the man who was Krug, named for the bully of Wes Craven, just like Freddy Krueger, wrote music. He wrote All Shook Up that Elvis played, Your Hand, Your Heart, Your Love for Andy Williams, and Speedy Gonzalez for Pat Boone. And then you see him in this movie, and you get why people thought he was a lunatic when they were acting in it. He is a lunatic. Mary Collingwood, who was played by Peabody, who went for movies like this and Massage Parlor Murders to producing children's television. And Phyllis Stone, go to a concert and try to score. Junior brings him back to meet his father, Krug, who's David Hess. Sadie, Jeremy Rain, who claimed that she was once in a car by Charles Manson and Tex Watson, and Fred Weasel Podolsky, played by Lincoln. While Mary's parents set up a surprise party, Krug and his family annihilate the children, first forcing Phyllis to urinate all over herself and make love to one another before stabbing them, ending with Krug carving his name into Mary's chest, assaulting her, and shooting her. The biggest mistake they make is by going to Mary's parents' house, where the parents soon realize that the killers are in their house. The suburban married couple can be just as vicious as Krug. His mom bites off Weasel's cock, Krug gets chainsawed, Junior kills himself, and Sadie is killed in the pool just as the police arrive. Newspaper ads screamed, "You will hate the people who perpetrate these outrages," and you should. But if a movie, and it's only a movie, you know that line, can arouse you to such extreme emotion, then if film director succeeded, the movie makes a plea for an end to all the senseless violence and inhuman cruelty has become such a part of the times we live in. This sounds like a square reel before we even see the movie. It became a video nasty 10 years after it was made. Gene Siskel said, "My objection to this movie is not an objection to the graphic representation of violence per se, but the fact that the movie celebrates violent acts, particularly adult male abuse of young women. I felt a professional obligation to stick around and see if there's any social redeeming value in the remainder of the movie, and found none." Ebert, on the other hand, said it was about 4 times as good as you'd expect. As I watched it for the first time, again, I was shocked by how brutal it was from the first moments. As even a kind mailman, we've set up to believe this old mailman from the sitcom world and, coming from the 60s and the 70s is a trustable person. He comments on Mary's sexuality as soon as he's out of her earshot. Everything from then on is a trap. We know these two girls now, with the benefit of this being past the time it came out, are trapped in a death march, endlessly repeating their demise as this is watched repeatedly. Other than Junior, Krug and his family see them as something to do, something to throw away, something to destroy. That to everyone but the parents, these two girls are as meaningless as they were to the killers.
It is not the offspring of witchcraft or Satan. It was created by man. It will grow to be 15 feet tall. It will have huge eyes, webbed hands, hooked claws. It will walk upright. And it will mindlessly, mercilessly kill every living thing it meets. Prophecy.
October 12th, Animals Attack. Adam also wrote about Prophecy. Man, I love Prophecy. Ecology horror boomed in the 70s. The reason's clear. Environmentalism was becoming a major political talking point. Companies were disposing of their toxic waste without proper regulations. In 1969, the Cuyahoga River in Ohio caught on fire due to the chemicals in the waterway. By 1970, Earth Day was established to bring awareness to how fragile our Earth is and its resources, and the EPA was established as a government agency by executive order by Richard Nixon, later ratified by Congress. I mean, there's a time when Republicans cared about the environment, the future of our planet. There are, of course, many films that base its plot around animals running crazy, perhaps seeking revenge on the neglect or outright disdain humans have for the environment. There's frogs, bugs, squirm, and one word's usually all it needs, and we can add Frankenheimer's Prophecy to that list. His film takes the next step, though. Not only is the improper waste management of a capitalistic corporation to blame for the mayhem that ensues, the encroachment of indigenous land plays a major part in the mutation of a bear out for righteous revenge. And though, in retrospect, perhaps casting Armand Assante as a Native American resistance leader is not ideal, you have to take social change in cinema one bite at a time, I suppose. Unfortunately, despite the importance of the story, the film itself is a bit bland, perhaps focusing a bit too hard on the relationship between ecologist Robert Verne and his Sal's wife Maggie, Talia Shire. Maggie recently found out she's pregnant, and Robert is not interested in bringing a child into this broken world. She has not broken the news to him, though, so when they go to the area of the dispute, The situation gets dicier when she realizes she may have exposed their unborn child to the environment that mutated the bear. As much as I love melodrama in my horror film, the story left me underwhelmed. What left me properly whelmed, though, is the sleeping bag child kill. Is it wrong that I literally laughed out loud when it happens? If laughing at kids getting demolished in movies is wrong, I don't want to be right. That takes us to another animal attack movie, and this one's for me, Bugged, from 1997. Great tagline. They're urban, they're vermin, and they exterminate you. Ignore that Tromo logo, right? Ronald K. Armstrong directed, wrote, produced, starred in this film. Prepare for something great. There's a guy named Dr. Craig who's replaced the bug-killing pesticides in the bug buster supply room with ones that make bugs bigger. Dr. Craig has done something you should never do. He pulled a Goldblum. He tested these drugs on himself. He turned into a giant bug, and his lab assistant shot him in the face. Now bugs are everywhere in the city, and just being an exterminator puts Dave, who's played by Ronald K. Armstrong, into danger's maw or mandible or whatever as he tries to defend the home and win the heart of Priscilla Bask. Dave's partner Steve may screw up both of his goals with him before that. I love this movie. All black cast, body melting effects, cartoony aspects like how Steve literally gets flattened at one point and comes back, effects that look like they came from the clearance aisle, a rat puppet, evil bugs with human eyes, and way more action and romance than this budget would seem to indicate. In fact, every review of this movie, not every, let's not be hyperbolic, it seemed to make fun of how cheap it looked. They should look past that. This movie is heart, brain, and of course, guts. That brings us to the next day. It's South Korea, and Adam is going to do Yongari from 1967.
Hey guys, Ghost of Burt Reynolds here. When I was alive, I was scoring quality trim like Lonnie Anderson and Goldie Hawn. Now I'm dead and reading about monster movies from Korea, you sons of bitches. Anyways, when I am making my list of films to watch for challenges, I keep several factors in mind. First and foremost, do I have access to the film I want to watch? There is nothing worse than getting excited about watching a movie, only to discover that it is not readily available anywhere. Next, how long is the movie? For example, I really love The Wailing, a film that would fit into this category, but I do not have 156 minutes to devote to it in October. I have to get through too many films. Third, you want your list to have a nice variety about it. You don't want 31 slashers. You need some diversity. Yongari, Monster from the Deep, checks all of the necessary boxes. I own the Vinegar Syndrome 4K. A 4K? Thanks to being a subscriber, a membership I question more and more each year. The film is only 79 minutes long, a blessing. And I can say I threw a kaiju on my list. Does the movie have to be good? Number. Do I have to like every movie on my list? Absolutely not. Am I glad I watched Yongari? Let's just say that this 4K is going on my sale pile. The film has its charms for sure. If you love seeing a guy in a rubber suit stomping around a set of miniatures, this is the film for you. If you want to see a monster dance with a precocious little kid, you are in luck. If you want to see a kaiju die by bleeding out of the rectum into a large body of water, no kink shaming here. But for me, this film will fall into that rare category of a film I did not really care for, would not watch again, but will probably never forget, especially that last part.
Parker Simpson returns to write for the site again. Their pick for South Korea Day is I Saw the Devil from 2010. They say, I remember watching a trailer for this a few months ago and thinking the serial killer was the aggressor of the whole movie. I was wrong. Anger is an addiction. When someone gets mad, they want to stay mad, even when they tire of it and destroy the lives of others. This can be as small as a petty friend drama or as large as a full-scale revenge plot. The rampage isn't able to be stopped if the person is, at least until the wrath consumes them whole. If you take anything away from this movie, that may be the smallest and least sensitive reading you could possibly get. Focusing on an intelligence agent's quest to hunt down a serial killer that murdered his wife, both parties end up in a cat-and-mouse game that affects everyone around them. The most talked about aspect of the film is its gratuitous violence. This movie never lets up the attack, nearly desensitizing the audience until the final shot, falling into the same vein as other Korean revenge films like Old Boy and Mother. Clocking in at over 140 minutes, it is an endurance test to get through certain scenes involving torture, mutilation, and murder between a lengthy bit centering around character disposition. Some call it torture porn, graphic and tiring, not to sound like the edgelord in the room, but that could be the point. And once conquest to exact revenge, you will eventually just find the journey for such satisfaction tedious and uninspiring, you may forget where you were even fighting for. Does that mean it's worth to go on? I Saw the Devil doesn't make a particularly compelling argument, showing both parties devolving into insanity and unsavory sadism in a world where there's no good or evil, just wrath, envy, lust, and all the other sins. The point seems to go over the heads of many amidst the rampant violence against women and lagging pace. Not that I don't disagree. I've yet to see the rest of Kim Ji-woon's filmography, but many are quick to point out very few of his films have a favorable view of women. In this one film, it's important to note the only female characters are shown to be helpless, either mourning the death of Kim Soon-hyun's wife, Jo Hoon, or becoming a victim of assault. It fits the killer's motif, but it's tiring and even degrading. It makes you wonder what could have been done differently, given the fascinating take on revenge. I Saw the Devil's strongest aspect is its visuals. The opening sequence with Jo Yeon is one of the best cold openings I've seen in a long time. You second see the glamour in the Good Samaritan's otherwise black eyes, you know what you're in for, something creepy and unforgiving. Its immaculate cinematography is complemented by a sickly color palette that is simultaneously pale, harsh, and dark. Pretend all the violence is off screen, you can still walk away feeling nauseous. Additionally, the performances by the two leads, Lee Byung-hung and Choi Min-sik, are mesmerizing, perfectly capturing two psychopaths in a sick loop, hell-bent on destroying each other. I saw that the former is involved in Squid Game and K-pop Demon Hunters, not the plot twist I expect to see after I watched him make the world's worst Verb Goldberg contraption. Despite both their sorrows and pains, neither expresses any regret of continuing their little game, and that be the biggest tragedy of all. I strongly recommend this to anyone that's seen Old Boy, Lady Vengeance, and Mother, yet has somehow not seen this. And if you have not seen any of those titles, this isn't a bad place to start. Just be warned, it's an intense, polarizing ride that leaves you sick to your stomach. Mebius is the next film. This is from 2013, and it continues the South Korean films. I wrote this one. Directed by Kim Ki-duk, Mebius has no words, only vocables like uh-huh and hmm for character communication. Want to see me get fancy? It also has non-diegetic sound except for the beginning and the end. The mother is upset that the father has a mistress who is played by the same actress, Lee Na-ra. So she tries to castrate him. This fails, so she does castrate their son and eats his severed beanie weenie. Yes, this happens quite early. The fact the father decides to research a penis transplant while also teaching his son all about BDSM. As he has no penis, the son is bullied until he participates in the gang assault of his father's mistress. The father decides to research a penis transplant while also teaching his son all about BDSM. As he has no penis, the son is bullied until he participates in the gang assault of his father's mistress. And as he has no penis, he's found not guilty. He makes his way to the mistress's work, where they have a threesome with the leader of the gang of bullies. A knife gets involved, another penis gets sliced, and then the truck runs over the gang leader's wang. The mistress likes the son better without a penis, so when the father gives him his in a transplant, that falls away just in time for the mother to come home. She wants a sexual relationship with the dad. Now impossible, but the son's penis has a mind of its own. Father tries to castrate his son, then kills himself and his wife. The son responds by shooting off his own penis, becoming a holy man. The scary part of all this is that Lee Na-ra has replaced another actress who was slapped multiple times by the director, as well as forced to be in the assault scene that was much rougher than she thought it would be. 4 years after these charges, the director was accused of sexual molestation of his students, and as well as actor Cho Jae-hoon was also charged with multiple counts of physical assault, sexual assault, and rape alongside the director. I didn't learn about these crimes until after I saw the film. Now that's going to stay with me for much different reasons. Our next film is all about the unsung horror's rules, which is under 1,000 views. John Connelly wrote this one, and it's Dracula's Widow from 1988.
Raymond Everett has always enjoyed the simpler things in life.
Would you care to see a monkey's head from Borneo?
Dissected animals. Rotting skeletons. The love of an innocent young woman.
Raymond, you're ice cold.
Now he's about to meet someone who's a little over his head. Raymond! She's tense. She's possessive.
If you ever tell him betray me, I'm going to rip your heart out.
She's hostile. She's Sylvia Crystal as Dracula's widow.
You don't think a woman could have done that much damage to her body?
This is not the work of devil worshippers. There is something even more evil in our midst.
Where did she come from?
Romania. Why have you chosen me?
What does she want?
I've got to kill her before it's too late.
Where does she get her clothes?
I don't know.
Dracula's widow. She'll steal your heart, your spleen, your liver, your pancreas.
Here, you want to try?
Dracula's Widow, the movie that leaves a stain on your jugular vein.
Count Dracula has an extensive cinematic family. There are the many illegitimate kin, the Orlocks, Yorbas, Bela Lugosi's with Count Mora and Count Tesla. 5 years following the debut of Browning's adaptation of the Count's Tale, Universal had Dracula's daughter, which Gloria Holden plays a queer-coded offspring. In 43, Lon Chaney Jr. would play Alucard, the not-so-cleverly disguised son of Dracula. Even the family dog got his due in Zoltan, Hound of Dracula. Dracula's bride showed up in many retelling stories. Big Old Bad Vlad, of course. Few stories bother asking what happens to his widows once the ashes have cooled. One of the first films to try this is 1988's Dracula's Widow, directed by Christopher Coppola, at the time 25 years old and a recent art school graduate. Coppola, of course, from the family, very acquainted with filmmaking stories about Dracula. His uncle, Francis Ford Coppola, would create his own movie a few years later. The same year Christopher made Dracula's Widow, his brother, Nicolas Cage, starred in the much more memorable and memeable Vampire's Kiss. Since then, Cage has produced Shadow of the Vampire, quite good horror comedy about the making of Nosferatu, and stars as the Count in Renfield, a movie that fails both its horror film economy but does benefit from his presence. Coppola made this movie for Dino De Laurentiis, an Italian producer with a colorful history and a career in genre filmmaking spanning decades. According to a social media post by the director, Laurentiis' main concerns for the film were less than artistic. Dino really wanted as many watermelons, big Russ Meyer-esque breasts as I could give him. The movie's fairly short on nudity given that directive. What Coppola gave audiences said was a strange ode to both classic Gothic cinema and film noir, featuring plenty amounts of camp and gore to keep 80s horror fans satiated. Dracula's Widow begins with narration by hard-boiled police detective Lieutenant Lannon, played by character actor Joseph Sommer. Sommer, a few years earlier, narrated a slightly more critical, well-regarded film, Sophie's Choice. The genre shifts from noir to horror when introduced to Raymond Everett, proprietor of a wax museum. Wax museums is a setting for horror films that have a rich history, but to underscore Everett's devotion to the genre, we see him watching classic silent fright films in projector after hours. Everett has just imported material for one of his displays from Transylvania. You know what's going to happen, right? Unbeknown to him, and I assume to Cousins, among those items are the remains of the widow, Dracula. This remains very long. The animated widow, and we will understand Vanessa, is played by Emmanuel herself, Sylvia Christel. And what does Vanessa do when she's new in town? Well, of course, she goes to a bar where she picks up and devours a generic 80s creep, played by Mark Coppola. Then she returns to the Wax Museum, where she encounters a pair of wet bandits-esque burglars dispatching one. The plot continues to evolve from there, including an 80s satanic cult, the heir to Van Helsing, and a love triangle between the vampiric Vanessa Raymond and Raymond's girlfriend, Jenny Harker. All the talent on screen are giving at times over-the-top and never-boring performances. The gore effects are provided by Todd Masters, who's still working today, having recently worked on Final Destination's Bloodlines, and perhaps less interestingly, Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie. Other genre credits include Fido, Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight, and the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I first encountered Dracula's Widow on cable in the late aughts, was happy to find it on Tubi recently. As of this reading, and me reading it, I should say, it has 821 logs on Letterboxd. The good news is there is a Blu-ray in the works, so that's probably going to change. So watch it while you can. My pick for this day is The President Must Die, which has 4 watches on Letterboxd. It's the last documentary produced by Sun Classic.
On January 20th, 1961, John Fitzgerald Kennedy became the 35th President of the United States. At 12:30 p.m., on the afternoon of November 22nd, 1963, while traveling in a motorcade through Dallas, Texas, he was murdered. Since that day, the events surrounding his assassination have been the center of the most persistent controversy in the history of this country.
Was Lee Harvey Oswald the lone assassin? Was he simply a nut working out some personal vendetta? Or was Oswald working for a more powerful, sinister force?
A fairly groundbreaking film, one that explores the conspiracy theories related to the assassination of JFK. Urban Legend says it was tested in theaters in Arizona and Virginia in January of 81, but performed poorly. It was ultimately shelved, is now considered a piece of lost media just a few months later. The real-life assassination attempt on President Ronald Reagan made an impossible movie to market, or so they say. I got the chance to interview the film's director, James Conway, who did a lot more than this, but very involved with Sun Classics early in his career, and got to ask about this movie. I said, what happened with The President Must Die? And James said, it was sort of the end of us believing in market research and testing of ideas. When we tested it, made some trailers, it received incredibly high ratings. Everyone wanted to see this movie. We made the movie and did an excellent job. I mean, it's absolutely authentic based on the time. I flew over the country interviewing all these people who had seen the movie, and when it opened, nobody cared. Nobody came to see it. I asked him, in my research, I heard it was pulled from theaters in the wake of Reagan being shot. Is that true? I know it didn't perform. I'm not sure about the Reagan thing. I'll tell you a funny story, though. We had moved the company of Sun Classics from LA to Park City, Utah, where we did Grizzly Adams in 76. I moved there as well. I moved back to Los Angeles in 82, but kept a home there. It's where I live now, several months out of the year. We did the post-production for The President Must Die in Park City. We're flying with all these reels to LA to do the mixing and have all the boxes with the reels. And in those days, I don't know how old you are, but when you used to do sound effects and music, you'd have 30 to 40 reels for each movie. Each of these boxes had The President Must Die marked on them, ready to be sent on a United Airlines plane to our sound editors in LA. Someone who saw the boxes saying The President Must Die called the FBI, and the people flying to LA with the boxes were pulled off the plane as soon as they hit the ground. But once they explained what it was, they were let go. But isn't that fun? At the end of the interview, as I was fact-checking a few things, I told him that this movie was one of my holy grails. He said, do you want to see it? Of course. Check your email. So imagine my joy in seconds. I had a link to watch it. And hear those dulcet tones of Brad Crandall, again, a voice I figured I had heard everything from in other Sun films. Now he's setting up the story of JFK, how he was changing America, and like so many other conspiracy films, this begins and ends with positivity. You have to understand, though, in 1981, though, it isn't like how basic cable is today. Conspiracy was photocopied sheets, word of mouth back then, no internet, just these strange pockets of information, and you had to hunt for it. A relatively mainstream film espousing the idea that Kennedy was killed by one of the many groups it could have been. At one point, Crandall says, who would want to kill someone as popular as Kennedy? And nearly answers himself by naming at least 5 groups that hated him and had a motive.
Did communist Russia or Castro's Cuba kill the president? Could political forces from within our own country have sponsored such a horrifying crime? These are questions which are asked today even more often than in 1963. And as you will see, for good reason.
This film shows the Zapruder film from a time where you couldn't just look it up on your phone. There was no internet, as I'll say a million times in this. The only evidence for years that I knew this movie actually existed was a Bantam tie-in paperback that was co-written by Sun's Charles E. Sellier Jr., but it is real. I actually have a poster where it played the Phoenix in the February 2nd and 3rd issue of Parade from 1979 when this ran. There's an article, Making Movie the Computer Way, and it said once the most popular ideas are collated, Sun's research team are sent out again. This time the band The Street is asked to help flesh out the concepts. Take, for example, the research conducted for The President Must Die, a docudrama on the assassination of John F. Kennedy. After feeding our data into the computer, explained screenwriter Brian Russell, we went with the conspiracy theory, the premise that was closest to what the majority believed. What if the computer said Oswald was the only person? Russell said we would have gone with that angle instead. We're interested in drama, not politics. That came from an article I found on Tempo Schlock. Now, by now, we all know the magic bullet theory by heart, but to see a much younger Cyril Wecht discuss it in detail is incredible. And what did people, when this came out, thought? I mean, what did I think multiple times? I saw Wecht speak numerous times, and he would gather 4 audience members, create the seating arrangement of Kennedy's death car, and actually show how it worked. That death car is now in Michigan, if you want to see it. This is from a time before our own president espoused conspiracy theories and gave dog whistles to QAnon, using it when it benefited his cause and rapidly disposing of it. We're to care and not care about conspiracy today. It feels as if it's transitory and can come and go as easily as the wind. How did the president's era grow back? How is the election fixed or wasn't it? Is Project 2025 real or not? Everything is true and not true at the same time. We live in multiple realities, even within ourselves. This goes deep into my theories on the world. But feelings and emotions matter more than evidence today. This was not like this when this movie came out. Here's a documentary from a time past Watergate that recognizes that the innocence of the nation, one that had not yet discovered the Third Reich, studied Jim Crow loss as inspiration, were damaged by the deaths of JFK, RFK, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, all within a very short time, as well as both Nixon leaving his office for Watergate, Ford nearly being assassinated by Squeaky Fromm, and Sarah Jane Moore. Crandall even wonders out loud at the end of this movie, could America ever find hope again?
A generation has grown to maturity since that fateful day in Dallas, when a young and vital president of the United States was assassinated in cold blood. It is a generation nurtured amid the sounds of gunfire. The assassination of John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, the attempted assassinations of George Wallace and Gerald Ford. It has seen Watergate, Vietnam, and worldwide leadership changes not by the ballot, but by the bullet, and all too often with the aid and connivance of U.S. government agencies. It is a cynical generation, skeptical, pessimistic, with very little faith in government's ability or even willingness to tell the truth. And yet, perhaps, if the Justice Department can at last discover who killed John Kennedy and why, this generation and future generations may find again the hope, the optimism, the idealism that John Kennedy himself expressed so well in his inaugural speech on that cold, wintry day more than 20 years ago.
In the past, you were a kook for believing in the Warren Commission could lie to you. As an aside, I hate the line of Bull Durham when he says, I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. But then again, Kevin Costner also played Jim Garrison.
Oh, good. Honey, I heard on the news that they figured out that the gun, what happened is that there is an echo, and that Kennedy was asking Jackie what it was, and that's why his head flew up. Honey, what time's Gladiators on? Are we missing it? You are free to do as we tell you. You are free to do as we tell you.
You're more sane to believe in the single bullet theory, one that argues that a single bullet struck Kennedy in the back, exited his throat, and that wounded Governor Connelly was seated in front of him. One of the conspiracy theories that it's not even a theory, it's just a way of thought, is James Shelby Downard. He wrote King Kill 33, Masonic Symbolism in the Assassination of JFK. He's more of an artist than a conspiracy theorist, and he said most Americans are beyond being tired. The revelations have benumbed them. 30 more years ago, he said this, and it's very true today. Never allow anyone the luxury of assuming that because the dead and deadening scenery in the American city of dreadful night is so utterly devoid of mystery, so thoroughly flat-footed, sterile, and infantile, so burdened with the illusionary gloss of baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet that is somehow outside the psychosexual domain. I have lived by those words since I read them, as well as this belief that only the repetition of information presented in conjunction with knowledge of this mechanism that makes manifest of all that is hidden provides a sort of boldness and will which we can demonstrate that we are aware of all the enemies, all the opponents, all the tricks and gadgetry, and we are still not dissuaded that we work for truth for the sake of truth. Let the rest take upon themselves and their children the consequences of their action. We work for truth for the sake of truth. I may hide inside movies and explore the archaeology of what was lost, but I dream of what could be, and this film reminds me of that. It's a very interesting movie to watch in the wake of several political and business-based killings this year. Much like The Killing of America, another great documentary that I recommend. The questions in this movie have not even been answered. They probably never will be. But I have solved one of my own conspiracies. I actually got to see this movie. It exists. And thanks, James, for sending it my way. The next film on our list comes on October 15th. Adam wrote it, and it's J&B. And we're going to have a movie trailer guy read this for us.
Stop the press. I originally had a different film in this slot, Night Angel, which I ended up moving to a different category. The J&B element was not very strong in Night Angel. Just a scene where you can see a bottle on a shelf behind a bar. I realized that somehow I did not have a single Italian film on my list this year. When I reviewed a letterboxed list that so kindly compiled films that feature the iconic Scotch whiskey, I discovered a film I somehow missed when I dove into Alberto Di Martino's filmography last year. Carnal Circuit, a film most definitely worthy of inclusion in any forgotten giallo set. Alberto Di Martino is probably my favorite Italian director not named Fulci. It is a hill I'm willing to die upon. He is probably best known for rip-offs of more successful films. The Antichrist is a rip-off of The Exorcist. Holocaust 2000 is a rip-off of The Omen. I guess you could say Puma Man is a Superman rip-off. Maybe his reputation for knockoffs lessens his cachet among cinephiles. If so, it's their loss. If they take it, toss it, and leave it, as Sir Mix-a-Lot so wisely said, I'll pull up quick to retrieve it. Carnal Circuit is an early example of the giallo. No black glove-clad killer to be found here. But we do get the trope of a common man, not affiliated with the police, entering his sleuthing era, trying to get to the bottom of a murder mystery. In this film, Paolo, Robert Hoffman is a newspaper reporter who gets caught up in the mystery thanks to a friend from his past, Julio, Roger Fritz. Thugs are out for Julio, the current face of an advertising campaign for the International Chemical Corporation. But why would anyone want to rough up such a beautiful mug? Turns out that Julio has made some enemies on his way to the top, as one does. But now Julio has turned up dead, killed in a vehicle accident. Or was it an accident? Seems as if everyone on the International Chemical Board had a reason for revenge against Julio. But enough to kill? Perhaps his diaries give an answer, and it is up to Paolo to find them on his quest for the truth. I do have a soft spot in my heart for these giallo films that were made before Dario Argento put his stamp on the subgenre, forever changing the way they are perceived. Carnal Circuit is similar to Fulci's Perversion story, or one on top of the other. Both films bring their story to California, although Fulci is more interested in framing his tale through the lens of Vertigo. DiMartino's film spends a good deal of its running time slowly revealing the change in Julio, and seeing how much female flesh he can expose along the way, really putting the carnal in Carnal Circuit. Unfortunately, the J&B component in this film was no different from Night Angel. Simply a scene where the former spokesperson for International Chemical makes a drunken display at a company party. He stands in front of a bottle of J&B before plummeting to his death out of a window. A missed opportunity for a dummy drop. At any rate, this film has been one of my favorite watches of the month, and another piece of ammunition in my battle to champion Alberto DiMartino.
As for my J&B pick, it's Crimson the Color Blood from 1973. Las Ratas no Duermen de Noche, Rats Don't Sleep at Night, was released in the U.S. as Crimson the Color Blood, as well as The Man with the Severed Head, a great title. After a jewel heist, Jack Sernett, played by Paul Naschy, is shot in the head. His gang's smart enough to know that there's a scientist named Professor Teets, I loved it as named Professor Teets, and who does some pretty wild surgeries, brain transplants. However, they use the brain of a serial killer named the Sadist. Going out in the middle of the night just to chop off that guy's head, and by this amazing procedure, Jack becomes even more violent than he ever was before. Directed by Juan Fortuny, who co-wrote the script with Marius Lissenor and H.L. Rusty. This film features Naschy in what must have been a dream role, as every time he sees a woman, he has to make love to her, or violent maniac killing love. This has plenty of Euro cult goddesses in it, like Evelyn Scott, she's in Shining Sex, Sylvia Solar from Devil's Kiss, and Gilda Aracino from Kiss Me Killer. More of a crime movie than a horror film, this doesn't have much Naschy, but it does feature some random dance scenes. When he finally does show up, he's all wrapped up like a mummy, but it's kind of like a gangster film. Head transplants, huge thing in the 70s. We thought we'd get them by now, but only in movies, not in real life. I would probably like to have a head transplant, to be perfectly frank with you. Here's another one that goes back a little bit. This is the Unsung Horrors rule, and this is Adam's pick, which is very near and dear to my heart, a Pittsburgh movie, Lady Beware.
Hello?
Oh, I know. I know all about you.
Stop it.
It's her job to design store windows that people will notice. But now, someone is noticing her. Someone dangerous.
Somebody followed you home.
Who is this?
Somebody who's on the same track as you.
Hello?
You know, I know exactly what you're doing in those windows.
You better stop calling me!
He's just some poor slob who hasn't got anything better to do.
This guy is different.
You know, you have got great fantasies, but you can't leave them in the window forever.
And now her fantasies have turned into nightmares.
Then I knew you'd answer sooner or
think it's time we meet.
And her nightmares are about to become reality. Diane Lane. Lady beware. When fantasy leads to terror.
Let's have the Candy Woman from Dawn of the Dead read it. You don't get more Yenzer than that.
After watching this film, I feel like I need to take a bath in Diane Lane's open-air bathtub, but for much different reasons than her stalker did. The year 2025 will go down for many things, some good, some bad. But as far as my letterbox stats go, it will be the year I discovered Karen Arthur. The Mafo Cage, a twisted tale of two sisters, starring Lee Grant and Carol Kane, completely blew my mind. Director Karen Arthur really knows how to ratchet up the claustrophobia, leading to some anxiety-inducing scenes. She also knows how to make the small feel big. The Mafo Cage was adapted from a stage play, but Arthur is able to downplay any restrictions found in a play. After watching The Mafo Cage, I had to seek out her debut film, Legacy, an adaptation of a one-woman show depicting a woman's descent into madness. Talk about unsung. It only has 45 logged views on Letterboxd. After these first two films, Arthur became primarily a television director, which had a stigma about it in the 1970s and 80s. If you couldn't cut it as a film director, you were shuffled over to television, the perceived inferior media. If television was seen as less than, it surely did not stop her from producing the highest of quality. The Rape of Richard Beck turns the tables on the traditional rape revenge film, with Richard Crenna earning an Emmy Award along the way for his portrayal of a cop who does not play by the rules, or actually literally plays by his own set of rules, but finds himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Speaking of the Emmys, Arthur became the first female to win a Best Director award for an episode of Cagney and Lacey. While television work fills most of her resume, Arthur did have one other feature film in her, the erotic thriller Lady Beware. Released about a month before the mother of all erotic thrillers, Fatal Attraction, Lady Beware tells the story of Katya Lane, an ambitious young woman who does not take no for an answer, nearly demanding a place as the window dresser for a Pittsburgh department store. Katya's displays prove to be controversial and provocative, but one person whose attention she receives is Jack, a married X-ray technician who begins an unhealthy obsession with Katya, quickly escalating from obscene phone calls to breaking and entering. Unfortunately, the finished project did not get the approval of Arthur herself. The producers attempted to amp up the exploitative side of the film, including nude scenes of Lane that Arthur says she would not have included. She stated that she considered removing her name from the film. Would that have made it a film by Alice Smithy? But would not, because the actors cannot remove their names. Still, despite being a bit of a mess, side characters are introduced only to be abandoned, no doubt most of their performance ending up on the cutting room floor. Lady Beware is a very interesting watch. It could have been the performance that elevated Lane from child star to adult actress. She would have to wait almost 15 years for Unfaithful to bring her the attention she deserved all along. Lady Beware is currently stuck on VHS, desperately needing restoration from one of these boutique physical media labels. Paging cinematography. I think this film would fit perfectly in that collection.
Our next movie is Arbor Day, which fits into the 1990s theme. Adam wrote this one.
We interrupt regular programming for a special bulletin. A crazed lunatic has just escaped from the South Oaks Insane Asylum. Police warn he's extremely dangerous and was last seen heading toward...
Hey, Pitbull, how much longer till we reach this place?
Last time I was out here, I was so high on angel weed, it seemed like it only took 10 seconds.
Ay, 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 ay.
You think we'll find a sole place to plant our tree, Daddy?
Sure, Elm. The woods are full of great places to plant trees.
Wow, our tree's gonna last 100 million zillion years.
Oh.
This is disgusting.
Figures I gotta spend my Arbor Day tracking down some psycho.
Well, if you ask me, all these freaks should be chained up, just like animals, because that's all they are.
Oh, Elm, this guy's been around humans so long, he's probably tame as a kid.
Please, Daddy, I'm scared. We'll need something to combat this aberration.
Guys?
Her viscera was smeared all over the basement.
God, what a horrible story. Yes, and to add to the tragedy, the event occurred on Arbor Day.
You're doomed! Doomed! Yeah! And a happy Arbor Day to you too, pal!
He says he typically shies away from horror comedies, or really comedies in general. Find that films as the medium generally have a hard time maintaining enough momentum for theatrical runtime. Much prefer the length of a sitcom. Sometimes even 22 minutes is a stretch. I love a good skit. Best of all, a good Vine, R.I.P. Got 6 seconds to make Adam laugh. When he does find comedy he enjoys, it's in the form of a spoof, not even a satire, just a good old-fashioned silly spoof. Airplane, probably his favorite straight-up comedic cinematic comedy of all time. Amazon Women on the Moon be up there. These films just make me laugh. There are many times I watch them. Mixing horror and comedy is a combination he doesn't always seek out. It appreciates it more when the film is funny without necessarily being a comedy like Return of the Living Dead. Again, he does like a parody. Alfred Soul's Pandemonium's a pleasant surprise, now Arbor Day. Joseph Sikorsky's take on a slasher set in a holiday. Honestly, not really sure he knew this was a comedy going in. No expectations. It was part of his Terror Vision subscription, so he gave it a try and he's glad he did. Starting with the send up of Citizen Kane, the film hooked him right away, and there's no hiding the purpose of the film is to try to provide a goofy good time. Is Arbor Day the most celebrated and highest of holy days in this film's universe, and Elmer, Elm for short, and his parents are looking for that perfect spot to plant a sapling. However, disaster strikes and a grizzly bear decapitates Elmer's father and violates his mother, also killing her. 20 years later, Elmer remains catatonic of facility, only showing brief bursts of activity each Arbor Day. This year, Elmer escapes, returning home as one does in a horror movie. For revenge, maybe? His motivation, not exactly clear. Fate would have it. A bunch of teenagers are using Elmer's childhood home for their Arbor Day party. There will be blood this Arbor Day and viscera, lots of viscera. Even a relatively short running time of 80 minutes, this film almost overstays its welcome. It was a little touch and go, but for me, I was able to hold it together just long enough to get over the finish line. I did laugh loud a few times, particularly one scene where Elmer thinks, but what if he and a potential victim got together, settled down, had a little spree of their own? Nah, he says. LOL by me. I'd watch this again, and that might be the biggest comment I can give a horror comedy. I ain't watching Repossessed again, that's for sure. Usually once is more than enough, but I could easily make this an Arbor Day tradition. I don't really know what other films you would watch for Arbor Day, so good on you. The next film is Children of the Night. That's 1990s John Connelly again.
Estimada Alicia, soy la matrona del Limbo, un pequeño y bello hogar donde cuidamos de niños con una enfermedad tan desconocida como difícil de curar.
¿Y es contagioso lo que tienen?
No, sí. Y la única filosofía que hay era de Dios.
Usted los está drogando.
زادتني أشواق
Tenemos que acabar con todos a la vez.
Esos niños son los elegidos.
In 1990, Fangoria Entertainment launched Fangoria Films, a short-lived production company founded in 1979 as a spin-off of science fiction film magazine Starlog. Fangoria is a brand deeply associated with Gen X horror fandom. What Famous Monsters of Filmland was for a generation before, Fangoria became for a generation raised on slasher films and Tom Savini effects. Fangoria produced 3 movies between 1990 and 1992. The first was Mind Warp, a post-apocalyptic mutant thriller starring genre heavyweights Bruce Campbell and Angus Scrimm. The third would be Severed Ties, a creature feature starring a later career Oliver Reed. And we do love that, don't we? The second is the focus of this 1991's Children of the Night. In many ways, it feels like an adaptation of Salem's Lot, or perhaps John Ferris or Charles L. Grant, the writers you might find in Paperbacks from Hell. The story begins with 2 teenage girls eager to escape their small town. Together, they engage in a local tradition, washing the dirt off them of the town off them by swimming together in a flooded church crypt. When one of the girls, Lucy, drops a crucifix, the pair awaken Césaire, an ancient vampire with a penchant for virgin blood, don't they all? Teacher Mark Gardner, played by Stargate SG-1's Peter DeLuise, and his friend, the local priest, must lead an effort to save the town from being overrun by the restless dead. Directed by Tony Randall. Its other credits include the only good Hellraiser sequel, Hellraiser 2, and Amityville, It's About Time, the second best Amityville sequel. The cast includes Karen Black, star of such classics as Burnt Offerings and Tobe Hooper's Invaders from Mars, but perhaps best known to this readership for Trilogy of Terror. It also features a memorable turn by Juilliard-educated SNL alumnus Garrett Morris. Industry legends K&B provided makeup effects for the film's bloodsuckers. There are many reasons why it's surprising this film is not a cult classic. I wish it were more available. If it was, probably would be. The first time I saw it was on a bad VHS rip with Russian subtitles. The second time was on Tubi, where it is not currently available. The final 1990s movie is mine. Battle Girl, The Living Dead in Tokyo Bay. A meteor crashes into Japan, unleashing a drug called amphetamine on the country, which means that most of Tokyo goes all Romero and starts eating human flesh. Only Keiko can save those who are left from the punk gangs, and Captain Fujioka, who's using his accident to create his own zombie army. Keiko is played by Japanese pro wrestler Cutie Suzuki. This was called Batara Garu Tokyo Crisis Wars. In Japan, it's directed by Kazuo Kumizo, who directed Guzoo, The Thing Forsaken by God, Part 1. There's no Part 2, there really should be. And written by Daisaku Serizawa. About Cutie Suzuki, she was so popular, she had her own video game, Ringside Angel, and also appears in the Go Nagai movie, The Ninja Dragon. She was also a gravure model. That is how Japanese magazines that have a front page known as the gravure page inside the front cover. This page often features gorgeous women in seductive poses. They're kind of like idols. They're kind of like pinup models or bikini idols, but unlike mainstream pop idols, they're more for their innocent yet sensual images that emphasize glamour, beauty, sensuality without explicit nudity. In addition to Suzuki, her parsing enemies show up in this movie. Devil Masami, Shinobi Kandori, and Eagle Sawai all appear as human hunters tracking down survivors for the army. This allows for fight scenes between the women who were used to battling one another. Is it great? Nah. Does it have attractive Japanese warrior women dressed post-apocalyptically and beating one another up? Yes, therefore it is better than great. Up next is Lord Shango.
The Shango ceremony.
Your death was that of a warrior who died for Shango.
African black magic so powerful, the soul of the dead can live again through sacrifice.
Have you nothing to give, sister? Nothing to give, nothing to give.
Lord Shango, the shock, the sacrifice, the blood.
I got no mind to entertain murderers in my home.
It was an accident.
My Lord is calling by the side.
Is
is always a struggle when a restless soul tries to enter a body not yet born.
Mama, it's Remy's baby.
Lord Shango, a clash between gospel glory and Shango sacrifice.
I could go back to Shango. I went once before.
Lord Shango is death and life. Lord Shango from Bryanston Pictures. Lord Shango, a devil of a movie.
Lord Shango is from Adam's birth year, 1975. It stars Maureen Clark from Ganja and Hess as Jenny, who wants to have a baby with boyfriend Memphis, Holly Taylor. So she does. She goes to get baptized, turning to God to fulfill her wish. Just to be extra sure, she takes her grown daughter, Billy, down the river to get dunked as well, but when Billy's boyfriend follows a different deity, Shango. When Femi prevents Billy's baptism, the deacons take matter in their own hands, drowning him while their congregation watches in horror. From here, things get even stranger as Billy mourns Femi so hard that she thinks Memphis is Femi back from the dead and getting pregnant by Memphis, which of course infuriates Jenny. The melodramatic soap opera historics is what he loves to see in his horror movies. Billy runs away and Jenny turns to the cult of Shango for assistance. Since, Christianity did not work out so well, the battle for Billy's soul becomes a spiritual conflict that would rival any wizard battle found in a Shaw Brothers movie. Lord Shango might be lacking in traditional horror elements, but supernatural forces are at play. There's an interesting look at religion. It might be easy to believe that Jenny turns her back on God after the incident. But the truth is, Jenny has never actually accepted Christ into her heart. So I'll show to manipulate God into giving her what she wanted. It did not work. Christianity does not work that way. It is not a genie in a bottle, but by embracing our Yoruba, perhaps even a voodoo religion, you may see quicker results, but not the results you hoped for or expected. Jenny gets more than she bargained for, but she does not seem to mind. I've seen Lord Shango described as blaxploitation, yet here's another example of a film with an all-black cast. Lord Shango does not belong next to Truck Turner, however. There are no exploitation films here, film themes here, just a supernatural horror drama that deserves to be seen by more people. I just would want viewers to be disappointed if they were expecting something else. It really is closer to Ganja and Hess, a great, if not emotional draining, potential double feature. My pick, my birth year is 1972. I'm old. It's the adult version of Jekyll and Hyde.
In the annals of corruption, there is no more cogent tome than the incredible chronicle of Jekyll and Hyde. It's a regular clockwork orange. The adult version of Jekyll and Hyde, a tale of hex and sex, rated X. The adult version of Jekyll and Hyde. EVI Updated Classic. You'll see plenty of Hyde.
Oh boy. Dr. Chris Leader, John Barnum, using the name James Budliner. He's also in Sex in the Comics. A Touch of Sweet, and Frankie and Johnny were lovers, and Angie Baby has already killed someone to get his hands on Dr. Jekyll's notebook. Why? Well, the formula makes people appear as they really are, and this could be a warning, but Leader doesn't care. He mixes up a potion for himself, and he transgenders into Miss Hyde. That's right. He is now a she, played by Jane Tizenta, starred in more than 50 disreputable movies, like Blood Sabbath, Little Cigars, Evil Come, Evil Go, and the Jekyll and Hyde portfolio. Director by Lee Raymond, who is Blackie and Sheep Freak, and written by Robert Birch, whose only other IMDb credit is playing trumpet on A&E Civil War TV doc. This also has Lori Rose as a doctor's nurse and wife. Linda York, she's also on auditions as a sex worker who gets beaten by Dr. Hyde in the past. Linda McDowell, most of all, Renee Bond, that's why I watched it, who is some kind of vision created by a mad doctor in a lab for real. I refuse to believe she's a real person. Produced by David F. Friedman, so you know that means quality. If by quality you mean nonstop sex and violence. I mean, I do. This is on Cult Picks. A great place to find that and a ton of other movies. That brings us to the next day, which is Hail Satan, and Adam Hursey's back with The Great Satan at Large. Before the internet, if you wanted your opinion on a matter to be known, you had limited options. You could write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper or periodical. You could go down to the town square, stand on a soapbox, and annoy any and all passersby with your rant regarding the topic about which you're most passionate. Or you could book time on your local public access TV station, free from the limitations and regulations of the Federal Communications Commission. Probably my own previous experience with public TV was Wayne's World. My hometown had a public access station. I never knew about it, but I did discover one in my hometown in Louisiana. When I moved back from college, every Friday night, this station would broadcast an auction on the most ridiculous items. Forget going out to the club or bar or whatever third space was around the late 90s. This show was truly must-see TV. Apparently, larger markets had stations devoted to public access thanks to AGFA. I recently discovered Decoupage, a Los Angeles-based program featuring performance audience Craig Roos and his alter ego character Summer Caprice. A drag character, Summer Caprice, would host a talk show where people as diverse as Susan Tyrrell and Fred Willard come through for unhinged interviews. Where else did you find Karen Black singing a cover of Nancy Sinatra's Bang Bang with the band L7? Nowhere but public access TV. More pertinent recent discovery is The Great Satan at Large, a program that aired a single time in Tucson, Arizona in 1991. In retrospect, perhaps the station airing at 6 p.m., not the best idea. When he provided an alternative to televangelism he saw in a lot of local stations, Lou Profito created a talk show where he portrayed Satan, complete with red suit, pitchfork, and devil horns, spewing the most profane statements imaginable, while images of Hitler and swastikas were projected on screens behind him. Like most talk shows, Satan had a panel of guests. God was there, and a professionally masturbating court jester. There are special acts, the sadomasochistic couple who show up to perform simulated sex acts. And this is what landed Profito in legal trouble with obscenity charges. The female in the couple was only 17 years old. He later pled guilty to the delinquency of a minor. Meanwhile, it was also a call-in show. And incels across Tucson dialed in, asking Satan to push the boundaries further and further. The show is indeed pretty hellacious, and perhaps a better glimpse in hell than even Ron Orman and SSW Perkle provided in their series of Christian exploitation films aimed at scaring viewers into accepting of Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. After 45 minutes of The Great Satan at Large, I was on my knees asking forgiveness. I kind of want to watch it again right now, though. That's just the way sin is, I guess. Profito did appear in another program on the Access Tucson network entitled 666 Israel, where a televangelist character and Satan have, well, I'm not sure how to describe their interaction, honestly. You just have to see it to believe it. And thanks to the wonders of the internet, you can. It's right there at your fingertips, along with every other perversion you can imagine. Hail Satan, indeed. My Satan pick is Mind, Body, and Soul.
Coming soon from AIP Home Video. Ginger Lynn Allen and Wings Hauser, star of Beastmaster 2 and Bedroom Eyes 2, in the supernatural erotic thriller Mind, Body, and Soul.
Oh my God.
After witnessing a bizarre satanic ritual conducted by her boyfriend, Brenda Carter discovers that her seemingly perfect life has become a terrifying nightmare.
Detective, I don't know who these people were, but I'm not one of them.
Hi, I'm John Stockton, criminal defense attorney. I think you're innocent. I'd like to help you.
Why is it that my case is so important to you?
I lost somebody very close to me to a satanic cult.
You are a betrayer. You are one who cannot be trusted. I have done nothing wrong.
I terrorized her right before she left the prison, like you asked.
I choose to kill her.
Stalked by a bloodthirsty cult as its next sacrifice, she must confront the dark force of its demonic god or be consumed by its power.
It's a big bad world out there. People get hurt.
I just don't know about this stuff. I'm skeptical. Especially when it comes to fortune tellers with neon signs in their window.
Welcome to her nightmare. Ginger Lynn Allen and Wings Hauser star in Mind, Body, and Soul. Coming soon from AIP Home Video.
Rick Sloan directing a movie with Wings Hauser and Ginger Lynn. How did I never see this in town now? Brenda Carter, who's Ginger Lynn, gets mixed up with the satanic gang. Her boyfriend Carl's gift for their 90-day anniversary, not an engagement ring, and gets set up for a murder that she did not commit. She gets bailed out by her attorney, John Stockton, Wings Hauser. She stays in his house, which is empty except for a jukebox. What else do you need, right? There's also a prison guard who assaulted her and wants her dead, but Brenda has a medallion she can use that causes people to die. Writer Edward Holzman also directed numerous Playboy and Penthouse movies, so this totally fits into that world. I'm spoiling nothing by telling you the satanic leader is really Wings Hauser in disguise. That's why you're watching this. You want to wait and dream of the moment when Wings stops being a nice guy, loses his mind, in short, he becomes Wings Hauser. This is better than Hobgoblins. but worse by Vice Academy if you need a Rick Sloan barometer. And it's on Tubi, as all movies are on Tubi. If you got a movie, you're like, when can this be on Tubi? Two different people watched Doppelganger. I watched it first, but it's not a competition.
Holly has found someone new.
Sorry I scared you.
Someone very secret.
It's very romantic.
Someone who hides from us all. Another self. A deeper, darker side that is capable of the unimaginable.
Fear, anger, hatred. The darkest, most primal regions of the mind.
Now, that part of her no longer hides inside.
Look, just don't touch me. Don't confuse me with her. She may look like me, but she's not me.
It has awakened and taken control.
It's probably forced out by some kind of trauma.
What does it want?
Somebody attacked you, all right?
And now, the only thing she has to fear is herself.
Let's talk about what I thought about it. Holly Gooding, Drew Barrymore, was suspected of murder in New York City. So she goes to Los Angeles. Could she have an evil twin? I mean, it's called Doppelganger. Patrick Highsmith doesn't care. Seriously, 93 Drew Barrymore could stab someone in the eye in front of me, and I'd defend her. Patrick is the same, even when his ex-girlfriend and writing partner Elizabeth tries to speak truth to him. The end of this movie, the most magical bullshit ever. Dr. Heller, that is Christopher, Holly's therapist, is the person behind all this murder, and he shows off an extensive latex max collection. Just before he kills Patrick, Holly splits into two people and kills him. So we've been told there's no way a doppelganger can be real and get evidence, but it happens before our eyes. And you thought Malignant wasn't basing his twist on direct-to-video 90s horror? Yep. The Ed almost wants us to feel like this is on an analogy. Who can say? Drew got a role for her mother, Jade, in this movie. A woman who tries to kill her for a trust fund and is then murdered. I guess confession and wish fulfillment in a movie. Plus George Maharis, Sally Kellerman, Danny Trejo is a construction worker, and Luann Anders from Reform School Girl. Director and writer Avi Nesher also made She, which is more than awesome. Oh, and he made Ritual, which is a Tales from the Crypt Presents movie. It wasn't created as a series tie-in, but released on home video that way. My friend Parker also did this, and they said, dude, I don't know where to begin this write-up. This movie is so bizarre. I highly recommend you watch it before listening. It's on Prime and Tubi, going cold like nature intended. If you're being insolent reading and listening on, all right, then Doppelganger is about Holly Gooding, a woman who moves across the country after implication in her mother's murder. She moves in with Patrick, a struggling writer trying to break into Hollywood to begin a strange relationship. But Holly, Sandy, and Chrisley comes into question as Doppelganger commits violent acts she's accused of. I know this covers a lot of ground. It's very cliche. It riffs on plenty of sources, ranging from Capote to De Palma. It also combines multiple genres. Comedy, neo-noir, romance, horror, erotic, thriller. It's all there. It's paced in the way you wouldn't think would be able to fit in everything. And surprise, it works. It's for the best most of the time. Like all good 90s movies, Doppelganger throws in a heavy dose of offbeat comedy that's either hilarious or beyond annoying. You have multiple side characters that are so damn entertaining, but pushed aside to focus on the leads. More on that later. Patrick's writing assistant is close to insufferable. It's just fantastic one-liners that attempt to snap back to reality in terms of plot twists and visuals. It wants to be a De Palma movie so badly, yet it cannot shake the trends of the time. This leaves me no other choice but to place it in a special category known as camp. A film that, in spite of its silliness, is seemingly aware of what it's doing and doesn't mind winking back to the audience, a normally hated trait of mine. The casting of Drew Barrymore is simultaneously genius at a terrible mistake. Holly Gooding struggles with mental health that feels too kind to put here, and rough relationship with their family closely resemble Barrymore's. I wouldn't be shocked if this role was written with her in mind. Like how Marilyn Monroe was Capote's inspiration for Breakfast at Tiffany's. The issues are the one, Barrymore's rather young to be playing the female lead in the movie with several erotic moments, including a topless shower scene. And two, she has a charisma vacuum. I couldn't buy her as a sultry, just a weirdly edgy girl needed an apartment. Pairing with George Newbern, frequent Superman voice actor, threw me off. Newbern, bless his heart, also has no real magnetism and is playing a wannabe screenwriter. Director Avi Nesher tried channeling his best Hepburn and Papard pairing and ended up with a mentally ill girl and a dollar store Quentin Tarantino, which isn't terribly far from the source material, but trying to put that in erotic horror thriller film doesn't work. That being said, this class was very fun to watch. Where the camp comes in is found in other choices. My God, this movie looks far better than expected. There's time where you can tell it's a soundstage with walls. Other times, the locations are immersive. The whole thing looked like it had a much higher budget than it likely did a commentary of 90s B-rate horror films. Then there's the editing. Nesher knows his pacing is quick, considering most of his content pretty mundane. How to spice it up. Quick cuts from everyone and everything. I broke my neck watching. Also, the score is insane. Too much, too dramatic, too anxiety-inducing for regular everyday things, and yet it works. The film has no right to position himself as such a moving piece, and yet it assures the audience it is. There's a certain nerve to be found. It's really quite entertaining to watch. Up to this point, the reason for the season, K&B effects has to be mentioned or even consider why it should be put in relation to the film. With spoilers, go watch the movie. Plus, please, it's worth your time. For most of the film, it's just a regular thriller with flashes of grotesqueness, ranging from bloody showers to distorted reflections to a couple murders, not enough to warrant Kurtzman, Nicotero, and Berger's involvement. But a gig is a gig. Then the finale happens, and a gooey transformation of a singular woman into two skinless ghouls or dual personality ensues, killing her psychiatrist, who is taking advantage of her before morphing back. It's the last thing you expect from a film like this. That's become a running theme here, isn't it? Even for the final 20 minutes, before rousing this riff on Capote, before connecting Drew Barrymore's childhood to it, a new doppelganger is deeply rooted in abuse, mental instability, and the loss of identity as pertains to show business. Barrymore's part closely mirrors the events of the film, adds a subtle layer of meta, one welcome in a world predating Scream's takeover of the genre. Within that lies the dual personalities of Holly, one that acts on her violent impulses and one that goes about her day, frightened what the other will do next. Having developed due to her troubled childhood, she can't form particularly healthy relationships. The most prominent would be with Patrick. I believe it's what kids these days call a situationship. The disturbing reveal that she has been taken advantage of by her psychologist also follows this trend. Paired with Patrick's concurrent storyline being a struggling writer in the entertainment industry, and a plot mixed with insecurity arises not long before David Lynch tried to hand at similar themes. And just like my initial watches of The Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive, I know I'll need a few more tries to finally unpack this. This is definitely one of my favorite watches of the month so far. Thanks to Lance and Erica for Unsung Horrors for putting myself and many others onto this little movie last year. Glad I could finally watch it. And I think Parker did a much better job of telling you why this movie is important than I did. And that brings us to the final movie for K&B, and that is...
From the producers of Night of the Demons.
Her beauty would captivate men's hearts. Her powers would damn their souls.
Put me on the cover.
On the cover? Let's not get greedy here.
I've been on the phone this morning with the police.
What?
Joseph Crenshaw was murdered last night.
Oh, no.
Did you invite her?
I wish.
She's fantastic.
Hey, Reeve, what's this rumor I hear about a new photo shoot?
Oh, it's no rumor. I've decided to go ahead with the new cover.
Is her life force. She's coming again, and this time she'll be stronger.
Night Angel. Tonight you'll be hers forever.
Night Angel, Adam's back. Adam says screenwriter Joe Augustin from Night of the Demons uses the legendary character of Lilith for Night Angel, the story of a century-old succubus who's planning on infiltrating the minds of men, being the cover of a magazine. Yes, this is the 90s. As the story goes from the Talmud, Lilith was Adam's first wife before the creation of Eve, banished from the Garden of Evil for not being subservient to Adam. This disobedience allegedly included refusing to lie in the missionary position. Depending on the source, once Lilith leaves the garden, she gives birth to hundreds of demons. Many of whom die daily. In retaliation, she kills the infants of Jewish people. In Night Angel, Lilith is a demon herself, a succubus posing as a high-fashion model, hoping to bring death and destruction to anyone who comes across her. Appears humanity's only hope for Pearl is 227, Helen Martin, woman who lost the love of her life to Lilith years ago, and maybe the only person who has a way to destroy her forever. In one of their earliest efforts, K&B provides the effects of Lois' transformation to her true demonic form at the end of the film. Always great work by them. Personally, I'm always fascinated by the incorporation of Jewish folklore into horror movies. We do not see enough, in my opinion, although the source material is ripe for exploration. I have another film that places its plot on an aspect of this folklore from my 80s pick coming up. Thanks, Adam. Stay tuned. That brings us to the 20th, which is the last day for this episode. And that will start with Tobe Hooper's Night Terrors, because it's Tobe Hooper Day.
There are thorns everywhere, but along the path of vice, roses bloom above.
Smell the roses, Eugenie. Do you know the difference between dreams and reality? Do you know the difference between good and evil? Do you know the difference between courage and fear? Now, we dare you to find out. I will render you as criminal as I. From the director of Poltergeist and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper's Night Terrors, starring Robert Englund as the Marquis de Sade.
Please don't hurt me. Please.
Parker writes here, being a fan of Freddy Krueger led me to this, and I was very intrigued seeing this in Tobe Hooper's late output. Surely, this will be a compelling feature. Night Terrors, direct-to-video effort. Toby's asked to direct after Gary O'Hara left the project, featuring Robert Englund as the Marquis de Sade. A slew of actors familiar to the direct-to-video scene, including William Finney. It follows a young woman visiting her father in Egypt, really in Israel. She gets wrapped up in a cult run by Desade's descendant. If you've read that and thought, what the f*** to yourself, you'd be correct. How Marquis de Sade's family ended up in Egypt, never explained, nor was the formation of this cult. This film reeks of unexplained bullshit just to happen. Naked dude on a horse, painted snake lady exorcisms during an orgy featuring snakes. Cool, I guess. I'm okay with weirdness, but after a certain point, it needs to make some sense. Another choice is to undercut the modern-day storyline with Desade's ramblings from his prison cell. All for giving Robert Englund more screen time, and to his credit, it's very fun to watch. The back and forth makes no sense. It would work better as a straight period piece as originally intended. Englund's performance, excluding the acting for most of the cast, is questionable at best. Zoe Cho as Jeannie, playing Eugenie, overacts and screams a lot, and like her character is constantly damaged with stress and is saved by forces outside her control, but she doesn't make it any more watchable. Most everyone else phones it in. No one, not even Englund or Finney, truly tries to elevate this nonsensical strip. They all just play in this absurdity, intentionally or not, combined with the silly premise. It's really quite fun to watch. Whole movie looks cheap. 90s direct-to-video has a certain charm that I find irresistible, but even with the on-location filming, the budget painfully clear. Dungeon basement settings are hard to look at. A 4:3 ratio does nothing to help the film. And there's a certain distinct orange tingle over everything, likely indicative that this needs a restoration. I feel bad not liking this. Tobe Hooper, Robert Englund, and Desade should have been a match made in heaven or hell, depending on what you believe. Turns out none of them can help a lousy script. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but watching this is akin to watching a car crash. But at least it was fun. My Tobe Hooper pick is Spontaneous Combustion.
Tobe Hooper, the director of Poltergeist. Tobe Hooper, the modern master of the macabre, now brings you his greatest achievement. In the spring of 1955.
Okay, Brian, Peggy, very soon. Ready now. Ready.
A secret experiment began. An experiment that left one survivor.
The vital signs are all perfect. There's no signs of radiation.
Now, the child has become a man.
Well, that looks like you lived. Got a slight fever.
A man who doesn't know the secret of his past.
My parents didn't burn to death, they drowned.
Something's happening to me.
2 people I know
burned to death.
Or the terror of his future.
They're watching me.
Nobody's interested.
Before his enemies can stop him. Before his gift will transform him.
The doctor can save your life. There is a vaccine.
Sam Kramer must uncover the mystery of his own life.
All right. You should never have been born. And if it wasn't for me, you never would have been.
and fight fire.
I will use my gift.
With fire. Spontaneous Combustion, starring Academy Award nominee Brad Dourif, Melinda Dillon, and Cynthia Bain.
God damn you!
Spontaneous Combustion.
Back in 1955, Operation Simpson had Brian and Peggy Bell be exposed to a massive nuke to see how their immune system would work. Oh, the 50s. Well, it works great. They survive, become national heroes, and have a child, David, who grows up to be Brad Dourif while his parents explode into flames. Yes, spontaneous combustion. Every time that was in Ripley's, believe it or not, when I was a kid, you'd see like a person in a chair and just their foot was left in a piece of jelly on the chair. Come on. Anyway, David grows up to be a teacher named Sam Kramer and somehow meets Lisa Wilcox, a woman whose parents went through the same death as his. Is it fate? Nope. It's a never government experiment. For now, our hero can shoot fire and lightning out of his body. Made 4 years after Chainsaw 2 in the same year as I'm Dangerous Tonight. This has me rooting for Toby. I know it isn't good. Maybe it could have been. Dourif told Fangoria, "You see me playing my heart out in scenes that are not working, and the reason they're not working is the movie doesn't make sense. It's almost funny. As a matter of fact, the better my acting was in later scenes, the funnier the film was. I found myself at the mercy of people who didn't know what they were doing. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but my feelings that the producers destroyed it. Toby could have made 3 different movies with the material he had, and each one would have worked. By the time he got it, it had changed from a love story to a suspense thriller about my character's paranoid fantasy to a guy who goes crazy film about the insane killer who becomes a destructive force that is coming to wipe out mankind. We went back and kind of restructured it as a love story, but it didn't really help. The beginning of the film was great, and a certain portion of my stuff was fine. Then it all became stupid when all the flame stuff started happening. Well, at least John Landis gets his head caught on fire, so there's that. Anyways, holy cow, like an hour. We still got like 11 movies left. But this is the second part. Come back for the third part. Thanks to Lance and Erica for doing this as I do every year.